Have you ever thought about an event that happened years ago, but it feels like it happened just a few months ago? Or even more common, has there ever been a Friday where you reflected back on what happened Monday and it feels like it was forever ago? This whole problem actually is more common than you may think, and it does have a formal name, and it's known as the telescoping effect. It means that events happened way in the past seem more recent, and recent events seem like they happened a long time ago. So you're probably thinking, how does this relate to you, and how does it relate to personal finance? Well, in this video, I'll explain how telescoping effect relates to finance, but I'll also explain how this relates to marketing and business and how it applies to a national economic level as well. Think about this scenario for a second. Let's say you have a car, and every year for the past 4 years, you have to replace a part in that car. In general, every time that you replace a part, it costs you about $100. So really, for the past 4 years, it's really not worth replacing the car just quite yet. But because of this telescoping effect, when you go to buy this new part and spend another $100, in your mind, you kind of feel like you just spent $100 recently on it. In fact, to the extreme extent, you actually may feel that the past 4 repairs actually happen within a year's time frame. So in your mind, you actually feel like you just recently spent $400 on this car. So then when you really think about it and you're thinking you're spending $400 each year on this car, you start to begin to think that maybe it actually is worth replacing the entire car altogether. Another example we could think of is a marketing campaign that a business is running for a new product that they're launching. Let's say Coke or Pepsi is launching a new product, which we all know Coke is better, by the way. Your initial thought may be, didn't Coke just release a new product pretty recently? And so then you don't end up buying this new product, and the whole marketing campaign for this new product fails altogether. When in fact, the last time that Coke released a product happened to be a year or even a year and a half ago, but it doesn't feel that way to you. Now let's think about this issue on a national economic level. Let's say you're a casual investor or happen to have a 401k, for example. You may hear something in the news about the stock market hitting an all-time high, and your initial thought may be, didn't we just recently hit an all-time high pretty recently, like a few weeks ago? Even though the reality is when the stock market did hit that all-time high, that happened to be almost 6 months ago. There's a bunch more applications I'm not necessarily going to go too much in depth about, but for example, feeling like you saw a friend more recently than you actually did. Or one that a lot of people can probably relate to is at the end of the week trying to fill out a timesheet for all the different tasks you accomplished throughout the week and trying to reflect back on what actually happened on Monday. So now let's try to answer, why does this actually happen? As far as the telescoping effect, this is a finance channel, so I won't necessarily go too in depth as far as why it happens, but think about your memories as a row of dominoes, for example. Each domino represents a day of memories. So on Friday, between Friday and Monday, you have 3 dominoes or 3 days worth of memories in between Friday and Monday. But let's say nothing really happened on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it was a pretty uneventful day. So for Tuesday and Wednesday, there's not actually a domino for memories for that day because nothing really eventful happened. So on Friday, when you're recalling what happened on Monday, it may seem more recent than it actually was. The opposite being actually true as well. Let's say that on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, you just had a lot going on at work. Then instead of just having 1 domino for each day of memories, you actually have 2 or even 3 dominoes for each day. So then on Friday, instead of Monday just appearing, 3 dominoes away, it actually ends up being 10 dominoes away. So then on Friday, when you're reflecting back on Monday, it seems like forever ago. So how do you counterbalance the idea of the telescoping effect? Well, there's 2 main ways of doing this. I'll start with the financial perspective on this, which comes back to one of the most basic things that a lot of kids do: make a diary. Okay, it doesn't actually have to be called a diary. It could be a log of events, or it could be taking good notes on what happened throughout the week. Okay, back to that car example where I felt that in the past year I spent $400 repairing the car, even though it actually happened across 4 years. If I kept an accurate log and receipts of how much I actually spent and when I spent it, then I can more accurately assess if I actually need a new car or not. Or back to the marketing campaign for that business. Rather than just releasing a product and not necessarily tying it back to the previous release of the product, the business could reference the old release date of the product. For example, that's why you see sometimes where a product gets released and you'll see some kind of ad out there that will essentially say something like, it's been 3 years since the last update, so we're excited to release this new update on this new product. So by referencing the actual specific time frame on when the last release actually happened, then it's not necessarily relying on your memory as far as that product release, which your memory can sometimes be a little bit flawed, as we're explaining with this telescoping effect. Now, the second method to combat the telescoping effect is to recall a lot more details. If I asked you to recall memories that happened over a week ago and just kind of wanted a generic answer, a general answer, then those memories actually may appear either closer or later in time than they actually occurred. But if I asked you to recall specific memories and tell that day in detail that happened a week ago, then you'll actually have it be more accurate as far as how it's perceived in your mind, because you're having to recall a whole bunch of details to reconstruct that day. A good example of this would be if I asked you, what did you eat a week ago? Most people end up having to reconstruct everything that they ate for the past week to build up to that past week what they ate. Okay, I ate Burger King 2 days ago and then McDonald's 3 days ago, so that means I had chicken 5 days ago. I should probably eat eat a little bit healthier. And I'm not really sure why my mind always jumps to food as far as any kind of analogy I give. But the point is you can better predict or more accurately assess how your financial situation was a week ago, or how much you spent last week, by actually getting down to the details and not just a generic, oh, I think I spent $50 last week, when in reality you may have spent a lot more. And so when you recall the specific instances, how many times did I actually go to the grocery store? What did I actually buy? How many times did I go out to eat? Then you can more accurately get a better picture of how much you actually spent. That's why actually having a physical budget and making sure that you actually can see how much you've been spending in the past couple of weeks is such a great idea, because the telescoping effect makes it almost impossible to accurately budget in your mind how much you actually spent. So what are ways that you could actually benefit yourself from the telescoping effect? Well, one possible way is to frame things in a way that makes things either perceived as either further or closer away depending on your actual goal. For example, let's say I'm an employee at a company and my boss comes in and asks, what's the status of this project that they gave me about 7 days ago? If I frame it in a way and say, I'm still working on that project that you gave me only about a week ago, that's a lot better than saying, I'm still working on this project that you gave me 7 days ago. There's a little bit of an association that's going on there, because when you hear 7, you just naturally think bigger, even though 7 days and 1 week are the same thing. You could also reverse the roles on the scenario. Let's say that you're a boss at a company and you're trying to incentivize people to work a little bit faster. You can frame things in a day-to-day time frame rather than on a week or month time frame. I could go up to an employee and ask him, what's the status of that project I gave him almost 20 days ago? And that sounds a lot more dramatic than I say, what's the status of that project I gave you less than a month ago? At the end of the day, there's plenty of ways to use the telescoping effect to your benefit, but the biggest benefit is using it on a personal basis and making sure that you're not losing out financially because of this telescoping effect. Before I end this video, I just wanted to ask everybody out there that appreciates these behavioral finance type videos to make sure to give this video a big like, because I want to make sure that I know whether or not people are actually liking these behavioral kind of cognitive bias type videos. And as always, if you like personal finance, business, or economics, or anything like that, please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one.